Well, we are very happy to welcome on the program tonight Danielle Smith. Premier, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Now, as you mull over last night's results, I'm wondering about Edmonton and Calgary right now because, as you know, no UCP seats in the capital city, losing 14 of 26 seats in Calgary. Is there a message that you take from that? How might you address the lack of representatives from those cities?
Well, I was very pleased to see that we managed to maintain our conservative coalition united. We got almost 53% of the vote. Last time around, it was 55% of the vote. I think the lesson I take is that we really now are a two-party system, with the NDP having consolidated the vote on their side. And they're going to be a very strong opposition, and they'll be raising a lot of issues that we need to respond to. And I'm delighted as well that we do have such a broad base of support. I've got representation from Fort McMurray and Grand Prairie, Red Deer, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Calgary, and in the area around Edmonton. So I want to make sure that we're governing for all Albertans. There'll be a little bit more work I have to do to reach out and make sure that we're making good decisions for Edmonton. It's such a vital part of our economy. But I think we're going to be able to put a good team around the cabinet table.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Prime Minister did send out congratulations this morning. He did so in a tweet, and it reads as follows. He says, "Congratulations, Danielle Smith. Let's keep working together to deliver results for Albertans. Let's create more good jobs, grow our economy, and continue to position Alberta as a leader in clean energy." I'm wondering what you take from that.
I did have a chance to talk to the Prime Minister earlier today. And I expressed my dismay at how the Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, has put his posture towards our province, and said that we are, once again, I reiterated that we share the aspiration to be carbon neutral by 2050. We just want to do it a different way. We want to reduce the amount of emissions with carbon capture, utilization, and storage, which we're a world leader in. We want to develop a hydrogen economy. I think that that's our pathway to zero emissions vehicles. We want to work with British Columbia on more LNG export internationally to reduce global emissions. And we've got lithium, we've got geothermal, we've got potential for small modular nuclear when that gets rolled out in Eastern Canada in the coming years. And those are the kind of things I think we can work together on. I think, unfortunately, when you have the federal government that has taken aggressive positions, proposing emissions caps, clean electricity regs that phase in a net zero electricity grid, a just transition of our oil and natural gas workers completely out of work. That I think has made people very wary of the federal government. And I told the Prime Minister I'd like to restart our relationship on the basis of the areas that we can agree. And that tweet, I hope, is an indication that he's prepared to work with us on that.
Well, what was his response to that? When you say to him that you want to restart the relationship, what was his response to you?
I'll know in a couple of weeks, because we have been told that they are prepared to bring through an emissions cap regulation within the next couple of weeks. So they initially suggested 42% reduction in oil and natural gas by 2030, which is frankly unachievable. We cannot do that within 7 years, and it would amount to a production cap, and we would fight that with every tool in our toolbox. And then also a net zero electricity grid. We have already seen an estimate of what that would cost, $52 billion. It would increase electricity prices in our province by 40%. And even the NDP in Saskatchewan have sided with Scott Moe's government, saying it's unachievable. So I will judge the Prime Minister and his willingness to work with us on the basis of his actions. And those are two things that I would strongly urge him not to bring through. So because we just know it'll put us on a collision course.
Sorry to interrupt, but what would be an acceptable target then? What numbers or what dates could you work with and build a relationship on?
Well, I think that neutral by 2050 is what we signed on to internationally, and we're prepared to work towards that. We are in the process right now of just doing our own abatement curves, talking with each industry, because each industry has different targets, different levels of technology. Some are moving faster than we ever anticipated, such as the great progress that we've made on emissions reduction of methane emissions. And the great progress that we've made is on reducing emissions from the electricity grid due to switching to natural gas. So I would say that we want to be a lot more collaborative with our industry, knowing what is achievable, and then work towards establishing targets on that basis. But we're all working towards net zero by 2050. We've got the Pathways Group, which is our oil sands group, They've made that target. Air Products is a hydrogen facility. They've made a net zero target, as has Dow Petrochemical. They've made that net zero target. So I think our industry is being very responsible in setting up that pathway, but they need the time to adopt the technology and the time to be able to implement it. And I'm hoping the Prime Minister will work with us on that.
Well, as you say, we'll know in a couple of weeks' time. But, you know, there are also questions right now around issues like the Canada Pension Plan and the RCMP. And I realize that neither made it to your campaign platform. But will you be moving to pull Alberta out of CPP and separately out of the RCMP to create a provincial police force?
One of the things we got feedback from our municipalities is that they wanted the option to look at different policing options. So we've funded studies for about a dozen municipalities who are considering having their own police force, which is what Grand Prairie ultimately decided to do. There are others that want us to set up sheriff's detachments, and there are others who are looking at regional policing. So we're being responsive to what our municipalities want, and we're continuing to build out new units of our sheriff's division. So that's the approach that we have taken in response to some of the concerns that we heard. When it comes to the Canada Pension, I understand how our legislation works. No province is able to leave the Canada Pension without being able to offer equal or better benefits. And that was a study that Albertans asked us to commission, is what would it look like if we had an Alberta pension plan? Would the benefits be better? Would it make sense? We were expecting that report to be finished in May, so I'm assuming it's going to be landing very soon. When it becomes available, we'll release it to the public and have a broader conversation about it. But the panel that looked into this and asked us to do the study said that no decision should be made without a province-wide referendum. So we want to gauge whether or not there's an appetite for that, and we have to make sure that the work is done first.
Now, before we're out of time, I do want to also talk about Take Back Alberta, because it was raised by the NDP during this campaign, a third-party group that speaks about religious freedom, individual rights, and warns about big government. But the flip side are people who are concerned that its members are fundamentalists that have intolerant views. And its key organizer, David Parker, who you know, he reportedly bragged about having an influence on you and your party. What do you say to people who may have lingering concerns about Take Back Alberta and what it means for your government?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, party processes are very different than what you do in government. Our party has 120,000 members, and it's one member, one vote, and they have an opportunity to put policy forward to be debated at our AGM, which will happen in October. But the business of government is to take the feedback that you get from members and to talk to stakeholders and to see what can be implemented. And that's why you have to govern for all Albertans, which is what I intend to do. I got a very strong mandate last night on the basis of the things that I campaigned on, which was making sure that jobs, economy, investment continue, making sure we continue to diversify our economy, that we address issues of affordability, that we continue our reform of healthcare, that we continue to implement our Alberta model for mental health and addiction treatment, and that we address public safety. And I feel I have a mandate to move forward on all of those things from all Albertans.
Premier Danielle Smith, thank you for the time, and congratulations again.
Thank you, my pleasure.